Lovelessness, a noun. The state or condition of being loveless, lack of love. All of us experience lovelessness at some point, whether it be the general absence of love in our lives, a lack of love from a partner, a parent, or a friend, or even within ourselves. It is very hard and nearly impossible to live a life devoid of love. Some of us struggle so deeply with being loved and loving that this struggle transcends onto other aspects of our lives. It does not only trouble our exterior relationships, but it also troubles our inner relationship with ourselves. Many of us, when we talk about love, we talk of it with shame and embarrassment. We are more likely to talk, to write, to represent the absence and the lack of love than of its presence. Consequently, we are led to believe that that's how it should be. That's how love should be. Hello, welcome back to Sandra's Show. Today's topic is really important. I want to talk about 10 life-changing lessons about true love that I've gathered through literature. Most of these lessons come from the book All About Love by Bell Hooks, but I've gathered these lessons from many of the literatures I've consumed over the years. So we'll jump right straight into it. First lesson is that love is a choice. Love is a choice and a decision. In any which matter, choosing to love someone does not lessen the emotion or the reality of that love. If anything, it strengthens and solidifies it. You decide who you want to love and who you want to be with. You there, decide who you want to be with beyond the initial physical attraction and emotional attachment you have for that person. So these emotional attachment could be lust, euphoria, wonder, amazement, appreciation, but at the end of the day, you decide who you want to be with and who you want to love. We can be drawn to people initially and actually share common interests with them, but we still have our free will to decide if we want to keep on seeing them, being with them, getting to know them, loving them, or even committing to them. When we view and accept love as it is, which is more than a simple feeling or a simple attraction, we gain a sense of responsibility and maintain our agency, in which we can keep our emotional and mental sanity. Ultimately, this deconstructs the idea that love is this big mysterious thing that just casually happens to us and to others with no effort, with no say, and no choice. Hence the common mythical tale of falling in love. When we know and come to understand that love is first and foremost a choice, in which we can make a decision of loving a person, it aids us to understand why we love the people that we love and why those people love us back. It gets rid of this uncertainty around love. So I'll give you a brief example. Think of what Noah says to Ali in the notebook. I want all of you, forever, you and me every day. So he has made his choice and therefore his decision to wanting a long-term relationship with her. But however, he acknowledges that she needs to make that choice on her own and she needs to have that free will to love and accept him back. In this way, love is more than just a feeling. It's actually an action, as we'll see in the second lesson. So Noah, in this scene, he takes accountability. He has taken action and he has set down his intentions. And he has done so in an open, communicative, decisive way. There is no mystery clouding this love and relationship in that sense. His choice is not solely based on a feeling. He has made a judgment of her character and of their companionship. And thus, in love, we make a judgment of character. We get to know a person. There's no room for extreme hot and cold behavior when we do so. Once we are knowledgeable of that person, that's when we can start to build on our real true love together. That's how we can build trust and a foundation with the person we choose to love. Additionally, I think it's important to look at the words we use when we choose to love, because words have a certain power of performativity. When we believe in the choice of the love we are offering, then I love you takes on a meaning. Words I love you hold a meaning, or what some of us might call a promise. So long as the words are not deceitful and intended as a lie or a hesitation of our intentions. In addition, the words we use in love represents freedom. It represents our agency to love. Faced with a choice of words, there is conviction that a person must commit to the words they have spoken. The intentions of believing in the words of the person we love is what makes these words powerful. It is because these words are followed by actions, commitment, and hard work that they can live up to the performative nature of I love you and its counterparts. Lesson number 2 about love is that love is a verb and therefore hard work. According to a lot of theorists, the word on the street is that love is actually more of an action than a feeling. Love should be considered more as a verb than a noun. In reality, love is both, but as a daily practice, we have to consider the verb to love. Therefore, it demands extreme diligence in taking time, action, commitment, and patience. As worded by David Wilkerson, love is not only something you feel, it's something you do. Furthermore, let us consider the wise words by Khalil Gibran in his book The Prophet. Let us look at his prose poem called On Love.
When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste the garden.
In this passage, we can see that true love is not what it seems. We can see that the roads are hard and steep, and that the road to love is always unexpected in its long course. Choose to follow it as it guides us through different paths we have never envisioned taking. It is when we stay the course that love blooms and transforms our lives forever. So it's not uncommon that a few couples, when they meet initially, they don't have that much chemistry or they don't have that much physical attraction to each other until they spend much more time together, because their connection starts to build in strength as they get to know each other. Personally, my most loving relationship happened exactly that way. So we need to talk about time. In hindsight, let us consider these words by educator, classicist, and author Eric Segal, who writes, "True love comes quietly without banners or flashing lights. If you hear bells, get your ears checked." Love is not solely this everlasting love at first sight phenomenon that we see in movies. Actually, often than not, it's the complete opposite. Love is mostly slow burning. First impressions should matter, but they shouldn't matter more than second, third, fourth, and onwards. Time will tell the consistency as well as the persistence of true love, as said by the psychologist Albert Ellis. Ellis says that the art of love is largely the art of persistence. We have free will, so we should be cautious of our romantic ideations. Romance is not just this out of the blue occurrence in order to fix us or to bring us true love out of thin air. Only consistent hard work and time can do that. Attraction and intense feelings at the beginning, such as excitement and physical attraction, as well as over-enjoyed promises, is not actually the key to real love, although it could be a catalyst. In All About Love, Bell Hooks says that men often choose women depending on their sexual performances. But then these men spend their lives escaping those women, especially if they married them. That's because beyond the attraction and the physicality of love, there is something deeper that is missing. This is largely due to society's pressure for men to sexually perform. One of the most striking ideas that Bell Hooks wrote about her new visions on love is that the best sex does not necessarily equate to the most satisfying sex, the latter being generally the result of true sustained love. It is society's harmful representation as well as expectation and its ambiguity around defining love that causes these unloving, unsustainable relationships. Lesson number 3 about love is that love is about mutuality. Take it. Take it. Take the flower. So when we accept that love is actually about choice and hard work, then we can understand why love is also about mutuality. If love wasn't mutual, then it could not fully flourish and transform. Only through constant mutuality can it be sustained. Love is also about reciprocity in that sense. So when one person stops operating through mutuality, the other person has to keep up with the slack. But then what ends up happening is that if mutuality is not continuously sustained, then the relationship just will not work. Consequently, love is not just a feeling that fades and comes quickly. When love is mutual in its determination and hard work, then it flourishes and it continues to grow. The love is preserved. In the Oxford Dictionary, mutuality is defined as the sharing of a feeling, action, or relationship between two or more parties. Consider this line from famous female 18th century writer Jane Austen. She writes, "There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart." In All About Love, Bell Hooks explains, "True love is unconditional, but to truly flourish it requires an ongoing commitment to constructive struggle and change." Those are the key words. Ongoing commitment to constructive struggle and change. Furthermore, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. Those are the words of Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Since we all have agencies to love, we all operate under mutual recognition. Love is about learning to give and receive love equally. As Nat King Cole puts it, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and to be loved in return. Let's look at William Shakespeare's Sonnet 116.
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when its alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark, that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the start to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fools, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending cycle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me prove, I never writ nor no man ever loved.
The whole sonnet is about mutuality and the marriage of two true minds, in which these two true minds stand the test of time, with the consistency of their commitment towards themselves, to the act of loving beyond death and the corporeal decay of beauty. However, it is important to note that mutuality allows two people to share and to guide each other as a result of the willingness to change in order to better self-actualize, as it is explained by Bell Hooks. As mentioned, it is through constructive change and unconditional love that this mutual growth and understanding of two true minds can come about. Okay, so another example of mutuality is actually forgiveness. When people truly love each other, they are mutually invested in each other's growth, which involves mutual acceptance and even forgiveness. This forgiveness allows both parties to grow and to learn from the experience. It can only be done if they're both devoted to the practice of daily loving. It is not simply about an apology, but it's about the recognition of the mistake through communication and unconditional love and respect, in which the learning and healing can take place. Consider the 1970 classic book and movie Love Story, in which Jenny tells Ollie, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." Real true love has room for errors and reconciliation, and most importantly, the room to heal. We are human, we are not perfect, not even in love. But if we have mutual interest, respect, and determination to make love work, sharing and forgiveness can happen. Lesson number 4, love is about interdependence. Along the line of mutuality, love is a lesson in interdependence. This applies to romantic as well as non-romantic relationships. We all need love and loving relationships. We all need communities in order to share the experience of loving and being loved. However, each and every one of us needs our independence. Remember, love is a choice and a verb, because we have the will to decide and to choose. Love and loving relationships should not threaten our independence or our free will. It is our right to be whole and to be able to make our decisions and choices on our own. Extremely codependent relationships often suffer from personal independence and mutuality. It's not to say that in relationship we should make decisions without asking others first, but it means that small decisions can be taken for one's own well-being, and that not everything is reliant on another person. Because if not, in doing so, love would stunt our growth and start to feel suffocating or cumbersome. In those type of relationships, any separation seems to be unbearable. And sometimes even external relationships can be threatened or threatening as a result. Some toxic relationships operate in the same manner. Sometimes it has one person leading and the other person following. which is quite unhealthy. The person that's often following, whether it be controlling or not, is often also the person that loses their independence. Let us go back again to Khalil Gibran in his prose poem on marriage this time. He writes the following.
Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music.
In this matter, being interdependent also highlights love being a choice, in which both people choose to be together in order to share their griefs and happiness while still being able to be alone. They are able to enhance each other's lives instead of filling a vacancy in themselves. By being interdependent, both parties' wants and needs can be fulfilled, instead of relying on one person to fulfill every want and need in the relationship. Consider what Gibran writes on the next section of On Marriage.
Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow.
With being interdependent, both parties can grow and trust and communicate with each other. It is a balance between autonomy and dependency, allowing both parties to grow together and separate. Lesson number 5. Love is about self-love. To sustain interdependent relationship, we need self-love. And self-love is as much work as loving is. Actual self-love is not about narcissism, since narcissism is destructive, which leads to loneliness, lack of love, greed, pain, and deception. Self-love is also not about being selfish or self-centered. It's not about buying materialistic items such as clothes, subscriptions, and the likes. It's about growing one's inner relationship with oneself. At times, when we lack love towards ourselves, we tend to be misguided in other relationships. We tend to put too much emphasis on others to love us enough so we don't have to do the work for ourselves. Sometimes we even end up in toxic and unloving relationship without even knowing it ourselves. It can feel like having someone's attention and care far outweighs their bad or toxic behaviors. But love cannot grow in toxicity. As said by the American actress Lucille Ball, love yourself first and everything else will fall into line. Open yourself up to the love within you, embrace it. Then it will help you to surround yourself with people that can give and receive the same love you give to yourself. Think of the words of Stephen Chbosky's coming-of-age novel, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, in which the main character says, "We accept the love we think we deserve." In All About Love, Bell Hooks reminds us that love is about trust, care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, and respect. Those are the same values that apply to when we love ourselves. Bell Hooks also comes to explain that when you love yourself, you build self-esteem. You build self-esteem and you become self-assertive. We need to be aware of the negative self-talks that we have with each other. It takes daily effort to switch the negative self-talk into positive self-talk. Self-love is constant work and reframing of the way you accept and give love to yourself and to others. When you stop putting yourself down and when you start loving yourself and you start healing and opening up and growing, it becomes increasingly hard for someone else to put you down. And you are less likely to tolerate it. Remember, you have boundaries and responsibilities to yourself. Like any form of love, self-love is consistent, it's hard work, and it's daily. It's an action to be done. When you start to love yourself, the other thing you can notice is that love transcends and pours into everything you do and everything you're passionate about as well. Although other people can offer you love and support, at the end of the day, if you don't reconcile yourself with yourself, there will be conflict and you will hurt yourself and you will hurt others too. A lot of people project their insecurities and their pain onto others, even when they're not aware of doing so. So self-love does not equal to selfishness. Actually, true self-love is selfless. When you love yourself, you start to accept yourself and you start to gravitate towards actions and feelings and things that are self-affirming and that are positive. It is no wonder that mutuality and interdependence cannot work without self-love. When you use love to escape yourself, when you use other people to love you for yourself, then you will rely too much on them for self-assurance. When the time comes when they're distant or they have problems of their own and they can't extend that love to you, you will have a bigger crisis within yourself. When you practice self-love, you don't use love as a means to fill a void or to escape yourself. When you self-love, you also combat that feeling of lovelessness. Actually, you contribute love to yourself and to others in doing so, because you teach yourself and you teach others how to love. Lesson number 6. Love is about communication, but most importantly, about listening. A lot of people can talk. Actually, a lot of people are great talkers or arguers. However, they're not great listeners or communicators. Silent treatment, injurious speech, dismissal, speaking in codes, those are all contributors to bad communication. There is so much miscommunication, especially with the rise of social media. We have begun a whole new level of mistrust and miscommunication between what people say and what people actually feel and what people actually mean and what people actually believe. Even tiptoeing around a topic is not true and open communication. It's skimming the details, and it keeps understanding and knowledge in this place of constant ambiguity. I used to do this often out of fear of what people would think and how they would react to what I actually had to say, what I actually felt inside. Because society has taught us to always keep a mask, to always keep ourselves protected. I'm not saying that we should confess and say everything that's on our minds as it's coming to us. And I'm not saying that we should engage in hurtful or hateful speech. That's not at all the case. What I'm trying to say is that we should be open and communicative, and as well as listening to what others have to say. Remember when we spoke about mutuality? The same concept can be applied in communication. Let's look at trust, for example. Stephen Covey, in his self-help book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, coins the term emotional bank account. And this emotional bank account is similar to a financial bank account, in which we build a reserve of emotional trust. He writes that when the trust account is high, communication is easy, instant, and effective. Reversely, Covey explains that if someone is in a habit of showing discourtesy, disrespect, if someone cuts you off or overreacts all the time, or if someone ignores you or becomes arbitrary, that they betray your trust or they threaten you, eventually the emotional bank account becomes overdrawn. This comes back to the topic of forgiveness that I mentioned earlier. When the emotional bank account is high, a mistake will not plummet the account to 0. A mistake can be forgiven because of the compensation of the trust that has already been consistently built. This leads us to empathic listening. Stephen Covey also explains that the essence of empathic listening is not that you agree with someone, it's that you fully, deeply understand that person emotionally as well as intellectually. To completely ignore or disregard someone's emotions, insecurities, or worries when they open up to you in their vulnerability will cause a great disconnect and even cause a rift between both parties. Resentment, miscommunication, lack of trust, and emotional betrayal, such as neglect and disregard, are huge rifts in relationships. It is because it causes great emotional suffering and it gradually negates true intimacy, respect, and trust. We've already seen that true love involves a choice. It is a practice in commitment and communication, as well as it's sustained through mutuality. By listening and truly listening, by being receptive and hearing what another person is saying or expressing to you, that's when you show true compassion. That's when we show love. We show mutuality in the commitment to understanding, fixing, and growing, as well as active loving through listening. Lesson number 7. Love is functional. It is not abusive nor conditional. If we go back and remember that love is a choice and a verb, this would greatly explain why love cannot be abusive or conditional, but instead it has to be functional. We often confuse care and attention with love. I know I have multiple times in my life. until I started showing more compassion, understanding, and love towards myself. Bell Hooks writes, "Love cannot coexist with abuse. Abuse and neglect are by definition opposites of nurturance and care. So why do we accept dysfunction and abuse in our loving relationships? Well, for one, it has been normalized to us on TV and in media, and generally accepted in our culture." Consider this passage by Bell Hooks in All About Love.
An overwhelming majority of us come from dysfunctional families in which we were taught we were not okay, where we were shamed verbally and or physically abused, and emotionally neglected, even as we were also taught to believe that we were loved. For most folks, it is just too threatening to embrace a definition of love that would no longer enable us to see love as present in our families. Too many of us need to cling to a notion of love that either makes abuse acceptable or at least makes it seem that whatever happened was not that bad.
The problem is that a lot of people have learned to justify their actions, their choices, as in the way they practice love, by labeling these actions out of love. Since we accept these excuses as a society, we rationalize different degrees of abuse through the protective screen of love. It's not love just because we're being cared for. Caring doesn't necessarily equate to being loving. As Hooks puts it in the passage I shared, we don't want to admit that we weren't in loving environments to begin with. In any abusive relationship, we cannot be uplifted or nurtured. We lose self-esteem, which, as we have seen, is a marker of self-love. Through commonly harmful yet socially accepted representation of dysfunctional love and family, a lot of us are led to believe that love coexists with abuse. This denies all of us the responsibility when we hurt other people in love, because it is deemed acceptable and takes the pretense of love. And hence, we have commonly accepted displays of abusive love. Think of the overly controlling, manipulative, lying, cheating, neglectful, or verbally abusive girlfriend, boyfriend, friend, family member, sibling, etc. Most of these patterns of behavior surrounding love are learned and exemplified in childhood. Children learn love and abuse, dysfunction at home. They don't have to be hit and called names to be explicitly abused. Neglect, shaming, setting conditions on love are all viable to dysfunction. In these dysfunctional relationships, there could be care, affection, and pleasure, but it doesn't change the fact that there is consistent emotional dysfunction. Those are exactly the words of Bell Hooks. So let me use an example with the 20th century American poet Charles Bukowski. I will read to you one of his most vulnerable poems, in which he imagines himself having a good woman, one that could love him and offer everything his heart desires and wants and longs for.
I need a good woman. I need a good woman more than I need this typewriter, more than I need my automobile, more than I need Mozart. I need a good woman so badly that I can taste her in the air. I can feel her at my fingertips. I can see sidewalks built for her feet to walk upon. I can see pillows for her head. I can feel my waiting laughter for easy joy. I can see her petting a cat. I can see her sleeping. I can see her slippers on the floor. I know that she exists, but where is she upon this earth as the horrors keep finding me?
To give you some background on Bukowski, he was greatly abused and neglected in his childhood, especially by his parents. He grew up having a multiplicity of strained relationships with women and found himself in a cycle of loving, hurting, cheating, lying, having sex, sleeping around, getting hurt, repeat, even until his late 50s and onwards. When we lack self-love, we don't heal from that lack of love that we've experienced in childhood. We don't heal from those dysfunctions. Continue the same cycle ad infinitum. Unless we learn about true love and take the right steps towards healing, we cannot escape dysfunctional love we were taught in childhood and applied in adulthood. Bukowski could have gotten a good woman. He sometimes even came across them, but he would have had to unlearn the behaviors he learned in childhood. He didn't allow himself to heal and gain that love. By the end of the poem, we understand that he makes the decision of staying with the women he sleeps with. Lesson number 8. Love is about honesty. There is no room for lying. For open communication to even occur, we need to stop lying. When we lie in love and in everyday life, we create illusions. And we don't love others and ourselves because we have accepted and adopted these lies. Additionally, we cannot truly love or trust what we don't truly know and understand. And even if we do, we don't feel understood or we cannot 100% connect. Consider the wise words of 19th century Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky writes, "Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love." Lying is all about power and manipulation. We unfortunately see it play out every day. Lying has become socially acceptable to us. We lie to others when we abuse them and then call it love. We lie to others by withholding, by not saying small things when we withhold information about our true selves. Lying, much like abuse in love, mixed with the concept of falling in love, is falsely justified and rationalized in order to escape our responsibility around the act of loving. The truth hurts, that's true, but not more than lying and deception does. Healing and love can only prosper once the truth is exposed and our true selves become bare. Through continuous lying, we all become desensitized with ourselves and with others, and we start to believe in our own lies. And we even start to believe in other people's lies. We sever from our true self. We alienate our true feelings and our true intentions. Lying is a way of gaining, maintaining, or having power. It has nothing to do about love. We've become a society that lies every day, and we justify it because we don't want to hurt others. But in fact, we are hurting everyone even more because we are contributing to the cynicism around love. Women are encouraged to lie in order to either falsely please and or to manipulate for the attention of a man in order to be in control when they feel that they are powerless. Children, much like the same, do it in order to avoid punishment or to see how far they can get by lying, especially if the truth and truth-telling gets them into trouble. Since the adults had previously lied to them by saying that the truth won't get them in trouble and that the truth won't lessen their love for their children. In All About Love, Bell Hooks explains that males learn to lie as a way of obtaining power, and females not only do the same, but they also lie to pretend powerlessness. Since we are in a patriarchal culture, men have more privilege when it comes to lying. Bell Hooks notes, many men confess that they lie because they can get away with it. Their lies are forgiven. She also explains that boys, from the moment that they're young, are taught to mask their true feelings. And this practice is upheld by both men and women, by both men and women sexism. Young boys are reprimanded because being honest with their feelings are deemed unmasculine, whereas young girls are taught to care and love without questioning or expressing their true thoughts and feelings. Ultimately, we are taught from childhood to lie in order to avoid getting hurt or hurting others. But in the end, we tend to hurt everyone. Open and honest dialogue can solve most of these problems. Lesson number 9, love is not about power, it's about cultivation. When we get rid of lying, we realize that love is not about power. Love is not about force and dominance, but instead it's about cultivation. Love cannot be obtained by force or manipulation. As John Lennon said, love is the flower. You've got to let it grow. In popular culture, love seems like this big fat mind game of control and power, often through sex, manipulation, money, coercion, and etc. True love has nothing to do with power. But since we are an instant gratification society, we have learned those ways in order to obtain a semblance of security and of power inside love. It is wholeheartedly wrong and misguided. In our society, we can't tolerate pain, and we are too ashamed to talk or to admit that lack of love that we're experiencing. Inasmuch that we even buy things to fill that lack, and we keep buying, we keep replacing, we keep filling this empty cup We keep dating people and keep on disposing of them when we don't get what we want from them. Because we fail to see that love is not just a simple feeling. That love is actually gifted and given only through hard work and cultivation. It takes time and consistency. It doesn't take power, lies, money. And yet a lot of people are cynical about love. And a lot of people are narcissistic about their self-love. They lie, they cheat, they use, and they replace. And then they wonder why they cannot have love. And even if they come towards the potential of love or someone they can be interdependent with, they are misguided by all of these messages that says that love exists with abuse and power and with the leverage of sex, lying, mind games, and everything else. When it comes down to it, we actually fear true love and commitment. And then a lot of people go to different partners because they can't seem to fill that need and that lack. None can fill that void and that want that we all have, which is to be loved and to love in return. They don't really want self-love or loving relationships. They want love with no hard work. They want a need filled without asking for a need to be filled, without exposing themselves. They think that love would only happen to them haphazardly, but love is not about luck, it's about hard work. Bell Hooks warns that our addiction to money, as well as our addictions to drugs, to shopping, and to any other superficial need, takes love out of the picture for us. She informs that love is not supposed to produce this high in the way that consumption and addiction does. Love is supposed to be secure, comforting, a place of growth through pain, and a place of well-being and overall healing and understanding. In true love, we are bare and exposed. We are accepted as well as challenged to transform and grow in order to be a better version of ourselves consistently through time, in order not to be stagnant. So now let's examine the rest of the prose poem on love by Gibran.
For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth.
So true love constantly reveals us to ourselves. It pushes us to grow and grow and grow. This growth is good. Look at the choice of the word pruning that Gibran uses in his poem. Pruning means to trim by cutting away dead or overgrown branches or stems, especially to increase fruitfulness and growth. That's what true love does. It's transformative for the good. It cuts away at toxic roots. And here is the final and 10th lesson about love. Love conquers all barriers. Love conquers all barriers. Love continues beyond life and death. It is stronger than fear and hatred. It does not discriminate and it does not dominate. Maya Angelou, the 21st century woman writer and activist, once said, "Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, and penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope." Let us juxtapose this with the words of 13th century poet Rumi. Rumi instructed, "Your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." And now let us look at the early 19th century poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning and her sonnet 43.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and the breadth and the height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being an ideal grace. I love thee to the levels of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and my childhood's fate. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smile, tears of all my life, and, if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death.
Firstly, as we can see in the sonnet, love is highlighted as a daily practice. Love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need, and a practice that is done in different ways. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Love is healing and transformative in my old griefs and with my childhood's fate. And finally, against the barrier of death, I shall but love thee better after death. Needless to say, love is everywhere when you recognize it's true. At work, through friends, through family, through creativity, through art, through everything and everything you're passionate about. Love is the essence of life. Its opposites are actually power, control, as well as death and fear. Consider Rumi's words again. Love is the whole thing. We are only pieces. Consider as well again Gibran's word. Life without love is like a tree without blossoms or fruit. Often love is compared to a flower, for it grows and it blooms and it gives life. French writer Victor Hugo wrote that life is the flower for which love is the honey. And so love is beyond fear. Love is at the epicenter of every radical change and human rights movement, as it encourages the end of hatred, fear, discrimination, power, and control. That's why love is beyond lying, beyond abuse, beyond dysfunction. Consider the words of Martin Luther King Jr. I have decided to stick to love. Hate is too great of a burden to bear. Let us consider another one of his important speech, in which his words will always ring true in the matters of love and humanity. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. When we put love at the forefront in our lives, love surrounds us everywhere all the time. In his book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, he relates the following. When we love, we always strive to become better than what we are. When we strive to become better than what we are, everything around us becomes better too. Love is also beyond death. Bell Hooks reminds us that our collective fear of death is a disease of the heart, and love is the only cure. The idea is not novel. Love is what protects us from this constant fear of death. It brings us courage, it brings us strength. Sir Walter Raleigh, in his poem, As You Come from the Holy Land, wrote the following. But true love is a durable fire, in the mind ever burning, never sick, never old, never dead, from itself never turning. So love goes beyond the barrier of death. It is the solace beyond grief and sorrow. Love is the only way to an immortal force of healing, community, and life on this earth. As we love, we also remember, and therefore we cherish each other's memories forever, each other's hearts and lives. Once more, consider Gibran's thoughts on love. The fearful and the hateful do not expose themselves to love. Pleasure is ending. Love is everlasting. To be open, honest, and bare in love, you can fully be loved, to the tears and the laughter of life. Even Rumi wrote, love, and ardent love also, is an attribute of God. Fear is an attribute of the slave of lust and appetite. These poets are not saying that pleasure should be abolished or that sexual passion should be stifled. Instead, they are saying that those who only seek those aspects of love, only the pleasurable parts, will never know true love. If love conquers all barriers, let us release the barriers we have created within ourselves. Thus let light, life, but most importantly love, into the darkness that is lovelessness. I really hope you guys enjoyed these lessons on love through the exploration of literature. Please let me know down below your own personal experiences and journeys surrounding love. Let us start a conversation. Let us heal together and love together. Also let me know, what are your favorite books concerning love? But for now, I'm signing off with love, and I'll see you on the next shelf.